Yes, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to VOSfit. Today is part 1 of the Less is More series, which means we are talking about breathing and how somewhat counterintuitively less, in this case, is actually more. Now, before I start, just a little disclaimer. As far as moreness goes, I'm definitely in favor of the viewpoint that we have a little bit extra in our tank. We have a little bit more to give. Generally, I don't even feel we touch the tip of the iceberg when it comes to our potential. And that's something that I actually wanted to talk about in another video further down the line. So I'm actually a fan of more. I'm actually a fan of pushing ourselves beyond the limits that we feel like we're capable of, but only in the right areas. The point I wanted to stress here, and the reason for this series, is that I wanted to puncture the myth that more is a ubiquitous ideology that just makes everything better. It definitely has its benefits, but not when it comes to breath work. So, breath work is a topic that I've studied for a while now, and I qualified as a coach last year, so I could literally chew your ear off about the benefits of breathing. But for the sake of this video, I want to keep it short and sweet and explain why breathing less is not only better for us, but it puts our bodies in the most optimal position for efficiency. Now, this bloody world, this modern way of living has people all in a dither. Whether it's active stress or passive stress, for most of us, there's something going on at some point in our life. And whether you're aware of it or not, stress, or the way we react to stress, has an effect on our breathing. And our breathing has an effect on our nervous system, which is either in fight or flight mode, or rest and digest mode. Most averagely healthy people in these times overbreathe. They breathe too hard, they breathe too fast. When we're relaxed, we breathe less, we breathe slower, and we breathe softer. So the fact that most of us remain passively stressed means we breathe harder and more often than is optimal for our bodies. And even if we're not stressed, breathing like this has become such a habit that we just breathe like this normally. Breathing too hard or too fast for a general state of breathing is bad because we get rid of too much carbon dioxide. And the amount of CO2 in your lungs determines the amount of CO2 in your body. So people think that CO2 is just a waste gas, and it is to some extent, but if we get rid of it from our bodies, fatality. It's not a good look. CO2, so misunderstood. So if you get rid of too much CO2 in your body, a few things can happen, but namely, your blood vessels constrict. So we have around 100,000 miles of blood vessels in the body. Imagine 100,000 miles of blood vessels. That's bad circulation, that's cold hands, that's erectile dysfunction, that's brain fog, that's reduced productivity, that's lethargy, that's restlessness, that's digestion issues, and that is immune system support failure. Overbreathing means less blood flow through your whole system, which at first to me seemed counterintuitive because when you breathe more, you get more oxygen, right? Wrong, because the oxygen level doesn't really change in your blood. It stays around 95 to 99% saturated unless something's seriously wrong. So when we breathe slower, we increase the amount of CO2 in our bodies, which dilates our blood vessels, which then improves circulation. Also, when we breathe faster, we tend to breathe shallower, not down to the full depths of our lungs, where due to gravity and the fact that us as humans, we remain upright whether we're standing or sitting for most of the time. It's at the bottom of the lungs where you'll find the most blood pooling and the greatest density of alveoli for gaseous exchange. About 1/3 of the air that we inhale doesn't even reach our lungs. It's held in a place that's referred to as dead space. That's the nasal cavity, that's the larynx, that's the trachea. And in these places, there's not even any cells to absorb the gas in the first place. That's long. And this is just a personal observation. And again, I keep cussing out the Western world. But when we think of the perfect body, what do we think of? We think of big chests and slim waists, right? For guys and girls, big chests, slim waists. So conditionally, for this illusion, we breathe into our upper chest. So again, the air still isn't even going to the bottom of our lungs. So when we're stressed, we breathe like this, too hard, too fast, too shallow. And it feeds back into the symptom because it constricts our blood flow, which makes us feel tired. We don't digest right. We don't feel relaxed. We don't feel at ease. And just on a personal observation, sometimes when people feel stressed, they might go and light up a cigarette, which, as well as the nicotine being addictive, is the diaphragmatic deep lung movement, which stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest part of our nervous system. So maybe they don't actually need a cigarette at all. They just need to change the way in which they breathe. Anyway, like I said, I could talk about breathing for eons. I do offer workshops, one-on-one sessions and courses, so if anybody wants to know anything more about that, drop a comment below, or if you're feeling a little naughty, you could go to my Insta, slide upon the DM, you get me? Anyway, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed part 1 of this series, and hopefully it gives you a little insight as to why in this case less is definitely more. Thank you guys.